there's a lot of talk right now about raising the minimum wage. I know President Obama's asked for it. Our Congress says no, pretty much. But he's gone as far as to raise the minimum wage for government contractors.
Right.
I guess in our state, we're also talking about raising the minimum wage, and as a former Republican, who I was always taught that you raise the minimum wage, then people who aren't hireable at a lower wage get no job. And so my question is, you're probably ready to jump on it right now.
Yeah.
Do you feel that is a valid concern? And I'm also kind of pointing towards the young people who don't raise a family, who really just they would work for half a minimum wage, not because it's ripping them off, but because that's all they really need. Whereas the parents who have kids who are working the same jobs, they have the need. So how would you respond to that concern that you might be locking youth out of the job market?
And this is it's a really interesting issue, and it's actually an issue that I've kind of been mentally wrestling with for about 20 years, because I do fundamentally believe that, where possible, markets will generally reach the right solution if you have a good market, if you have the conditions for a good market. And economists will talk all about how you need perfect information, you need no externalities, there's all sorts of
ideal things that never happen in reality. But
well, exactly. I mean, it's a question of whether it only exists in a test tube, but I generally like to see as little interference with market forces as possible, because it just leads you down this road where you don't have to keep interfering to deal with the results of your initial interference. But, so I think you need a good justification for when you're going to come in with the kind of command and control regulations on prices and wages and that kind of thing. But that said, I'm a person who's worked a lot of minimum wage jobs. I mean, I've probably had about 15 minimum wage jobs. I came from a very poor background, and I know it was $4.10 an hour when I was working, and it was really terrible, and I wasn't even trying to support a family. So I understand the pain that people are going through, and the infeasibility of trying to run a household on what we're currently setting up as minimum wage. And it's ultimately putting a burden on the state, because when we're paying people these wages that basically require them to seek government assistance in order to supplement, in order to survive, then we're all kind of bearing an administrative burden as taxpayers by virtue of not paying people enough to live on. With respect to the question you raised of whether there is this effect of hitting employment levels, I saw an interesting article the other day that actually the states that had just implemented increases in the minimum wage this year are some of the states that have seen the highest job growth this year. So it was kind of undermining this idea that when you raise the minimum wage, you're hurting job markets. And some of the recent data is actually showing that it's doing the opposite. And I could see how that would happen, because when you give more spending money to these people, they're going to go spend more money. This is a group of people who are really not stocking money away on stocks and bonds. They're meeting immediate needs. They take that money, they're going to buy more groceries, they're going to buy more consumer goods, and so it's almost an immediate stimulus effect on the economy, and you could see how that would actually generate jobs. And you look around the world and you look at the countries that we would want to rank ourselves with, the Western democracies, the countries in the world that have the highest living standard, the highest education levels, the highest everything. They all have pretty high minimum wages. And you look around the world at the countries that have no minimum wages, and they are not countries we'd want to slot ourselves with. So you look around, do we want to look more like, Germany and Sweden, or do we want to look more like Bangladesh? And I think across the world, you can look pretty clearly and see that, those higher minimum wages tend to correlate with higher living standards for the whole society.